Hi everyone, welcome to our talk. We're just going to start sharing our screen soon, but before we do that, I'm Chloe, and also on the camera is Shane, who's
Hi everyone.
yeah, and we're going to be sharing with you a little bit more about Back to Ground Zero today. Okay. All right. So before we start, just thank you all for spending your Sunday evening with us. And also thank you to Delegate for hosting us. And today we're going to be sharing with you a little bit more about Back to Ground Zero, as well as what we do and why we consider mindfulness as being really important in our work in advocating for a more sustainable planet. So yeah, today's talk is going to be done by both of us, myself and Shane. And you'll hear from me for the first half, and then you'll hear from Shane for the second half. Okay. So for those of you who don't know much about Back to Ground Zero, Back to Ground Zero was started in 2017 out of a love for the planet and a motivation to create butterfly effects through small actions that can create big outcomes. And Shuing, as well as two other team members, were the founding members of Back to Ground Zero. A year later, in 2018, we put together the Ground Zero Market, which was held at Ground Up Initiative. And the Ground Zero Market involved a lot of awareness raising and encouraging Singaporeans to live a more sustainable lifestyle, as well as incorporating more sustainable dietary habits into their lives. This was a marketplace, and there were more than 40 local vendors at the market itself, as well as educational talks and screenings and so on. However, between 2018 and 2019, you'll notice a change where the event was renamed as Ground Zero Festival, and this was funded by the National Youth Council's grant. And why the change from a market to a festival was because the team decided that we wanted to transition from a market, which was based largely on a model of consumption, towards a festival, which is based on a model of experiences and creating positive experiences around sustainable living. So during the 2019 Ground Zero Festival, as you will see here in the pictures, we had also another partnership with Ground Up Initiative and a lot more activities, including an art exhibition, performances, classes and workshops and so on, as well as other upcycling workshops. For example, if you can see in the picture here, we have some participants who are upcycling into reusable menstrual pads. So that was what happened in 2019. From this year and moving forward, however, we are moving towards a model where we're focusing more on mindfulness and eco-literacy for the younger generation. So Shireen will take you through this a little bit more later on in our talk, but this revolves around positive mental health and the intersection between mindfulness and sustainability, as well as education, how that plays into creating a more sustainable future. So yeah. Today's talk, we're going to run through two major reasons why we think mindfulness is really important in the mental health and sustainability. And the two reasons are mindfulness and its links with consumption, as well as mindfulness as a way to respond to climate change. And then finally, we'll go through Back to Ground Zero's vision for the future. Okay, so before we start, I'm going to need you guys to participate in an activity with us. So if you go to this website, menti.com, let me show you what it looks like. You can key in a code and that will bring you to a quiz. So if you go to this website and key that in, you'll come to our screen. Okay, I'll give you guys a minute to just check in there. And you can just answer our questions. All right, so it seems that our participants are largely quite happy and not at all bored by the circuit breaker, which is great. Okay, so we've got a really happy group of people in the audience. Great. So really happy that you guys are having such positive experiences this year. All right, we're gonna go to a different question really shortly. And this requires you to think a little bit about what you do when you're not so happy, okay? So you can enter a word that tells us how you respond to negative feelings. Your responses are anonymous, so you don't have to worry about privacy. Any activities that you do or things that make you particularly happy. I like eat a donut. I think that's a great activity to do when you're not happy. Okay, so we've got a few responses like keeping active. That's quite a common thread. So doing sports, watching TV, listening to music, keeping active. Some of you are also sharing with us some other things you might do, like withdraw, which is very common, or avoid the problem, or go for a walk. Okay. Yeah, think about something else. All right. So the final question we're going to ask you is about mindfulness and whether you know about it or whether it's something that you use in your daily life as a response to these possibly feelings that you may be experiencing. Okay, so final question. What does it mean? What does mindfulness mean to you? And you can say that you don't know what it is, and that's fine. So having control of our emotions, being aware of our emotions, I presume. Okay, so awareness of our emotions and also our physical being. Staying in the present moment, observing everything. Caring about others, yeah, that's really interesting. Being conscious and connected to your well-being, yeah. Being realistic about your expectations, that's a really interesting point. Okay, so we have 12 responses, so I'm gonna stop there. All right. So it seems that many of our participants here are generally have positive feelings this year, which is great, and we're really happy about that. And many of you also noted that mindfulness is about being connected with your feelings and your well-being and your emotions, and that's great. So this brings us to our first part of our talk, where we're going to think a little bit more about the role that mindfulness plays in our consumption and our purchases as someone who inevitably makes purchases in our day-to-day life. So it may seem a little bit odd that we're talking about mindfulness and buying things, but we, as a group, we realize that purchasing and owning tons of stuff has not always been something that's typical or the norm. And buying and owning a lot of stuff only became really normal with the rise of capitalism in the mid-18th century. And this model of economic growth relies on you and me buying items or products in order to generate employment and to create wealth for societies. However, as you may have realized in the 21st century, we buy lots of things, and it has generated other sorts of problems such as resource waste and carbon emissions. And I'm sure you've heard from the other talks that have been going on over the past 2 days about how For example, plastic generates a lot of resource waste, and food waste as well is increasingly a problem in modern society. Additionally, we also noticed that maybe not directly related to the environment, but we also noticed that consumerism does generate, for example, high levels of debt and also lower levels of happiness. So as many of you will know, in Singapore, we have a lot of sales. And I think the 11.11 sale just passed, and 10.10, and 12.12, and 9.9. And we're also seeing lots of ads whenever we go on social media as well. And I tried to turn off the ad function on social media, but it doesn't work. You have to have ads on your social media pages. When you're on the train as well, you're seeing lots of advertisements, and you can't really avoid them. And you can't avoid shopping malls either in Singapore. Even just a couple of days ago, this was 2 days ago, this online shop called Pretty Little Thing in the UK was actually criticized for participating in the Black Friday sale and selling a dress for as cheap as 8 pence, which is something like, I guess, 10 cents or something like that. So we all know that we probably buy more than we need. And we also know that this is a culture that pervades through our interactions with businesses and our interactions with each other as well. However, as you will probably know, this has a really big environmental impact. So for example, clothing production has doubled since 2000, that's 20 years. And up to 85% of textiles actually go to landfill every year. And fast fashion is one of the big contributors to global emissions. Also, digital waste and e-waste has become an increasing problem because of a phenomenon called planned obsolescence, which means that the device that you are holding is designed to be less effective within a shorter amount of time so that you buy a new device. And increasingly, devices as well are cheaper, which increases demand for new devices too. As you can see here, the high demand has led to 53.6 million tons of e-waste last year alone, and a very, very small amount of this waste is recycled. Separately, we also noticed that, especially in modern societies, we have increasingly demanded more aviation, for example, traveling for work or traveling for holidays and so on. And this is also a big driver of global emissions. Now, what does this mean for us? Does it mean that we just stop buying stuff? And how do we go about becoming more mindful in our consumption patterns? So one thing we wanted to use our platform to share about today is that mindful consumption doesn't mean we just stop buying new things entirely. Because we believe that becoming more mindful means also not just paying attention to your emotions, but also paying more attention and becoming more conscious of why you are purchasing items, how much of that is learned behavior or something you're not thinking about, and also how does that impact your financial and mental well-being, as well as the environment at large. So we consider mental well-being, financial well-being, and the well-being of the environment as all naturally interconnected. And to resolve this problem, we have 3 questions that we propose that you ask yourself, even as you are moving towards the holiday season. So the first question is, why am I buying this? Which involves thinking about what need this purchase is fulfilling for you, whether the purchase is really necessary, or whether, for example, you may be buying it because you are bored, or you're trying to avoid a problem, or you are responding to a sale or really compelling advert, because sometimes the ads just are really, really compelling. Okay, second question. If the item is a physical item, am I going to use it regularly or more than once? Will I use this item in a meaningful way, for example, an experience? Or if an item will not be used more than once, you can also obtain it by borrowing or thrifting as well. Finally, we also propose that consumers ask themselves about the real cost of the product. For example, a dress that costs 5 pence will actually incur additional costs to the environment as well. For example, emissions generated from production and shipping, pollution, effects on animals, and so on, and effects on marginalized communities who have the most to lose from climate change. So those are the 3 questions that we propose in terms of applying mindfulness to consumption. And now Shireen's going to take you through the other half of our talk, which is about how mindfulness responds to climate change.
Hi, okay. So I don't know about you, but looking at all that statistics just now, it kind of makes you very stressed. And if you are anything, or you're someone who, really cares about the environment and really cares about your mental health and all of that, you would find that, yeah, oh my God, like all of this have an impact on me. And, a lot of times we are going through phases where we're like, no, save the environment and all of that. And we see so many positive effects of climate change now, where people are just there are protests, people are really speaking up to the government and all of that. And everything is there's so much going on. If you scroll like social media, there's people telling you all about the statistics. And then there are like brands that are like all about like conscious branding and all of that, and there's so much going on. But like, what does that mean for all of us? So there's so much positive change. People are all over the world, people of all race, religion, culture, sexuality, all of that. They're all gathered together. We're all coming together and fighting for climate action, which is great. And we want to be able to target all of the statistics just now, and we want to defeat all of that, and we want to go against mindless consumption. But it can be very, very, very stressful, because there is another rise of a trend, not just in climate action, but also in eco-anxiety. So I'm not sure if you know anything about eco-anxiety, but it is basically a chronic fear of environmental doom, according to the American Psychological Association. So it sounds very, very, very negative. It sounds very, very frustrating. It sounds very, very, it's just bad, like you don't want that to happen to you, but it does happen to most of us. And it may not be like a super, like a rush of feeling that really comes to you, but it comes in waves. And eco anxiety can be just that overwhelming feeling that you have when you are faced with so much thoughts and so much energy and all that pent up emotions about how can I help the environment, how can I help myself, in this world of so much change and so much uncertainty. How can we navigate all of this? So there's a lot of people experiencing this. It can be along a spectrum. For example, for the countries like Maldives, the rising sea levels basically means they're going to lose their country. And that for them is an existential threat. And for them, it might come as that really like chronic feeling of doom. But for us, it could be a healthy response to the climate crisis, because it's a human survival instinct basically to all threats, to have that feeling of fight or flight. We want to fight and do something about it. And a lot of times it's a good thing also, because it shows that we care. And if you don't have some sort of emotional reaction to the problem, it's likely that you don't care enough. So it's a good thing that we want to be able to experience, but also to be able to know how to control it. So a lot of times, we feel anger and frustration, guilt and shame, worry, anxiety, grief and sadness, stress. All of these are emotions that we are going to feel in the day-to-day life of, targeting and fighting against, climate change and all of that, fighting for climate change. So understanding that, climate change is not just a global concern where, we are protesting and going for all of these rallies and writing to the government and all of that, but really it's also a very personal thing. And it's something that we need to do for ourselves. It's not just taking care of Mother Nature, taking care of other people and all of that, but really taking care of ourselves as well. So a lot of people, especially youth our age, we are the ones who are really, stepping up and absorbing the severity of all these climate warnings. We're defining ourselves as the face of climate movement. We are putting that pressure on ourselves to be, marching and protesting, and even, telling people what to do a lot of the times, and telling them whether they're doing negative actions or inactions, whether they're not doing anything at all. And we're blaming a lot for, other people for, living in a very uncertain and unstable future for us or for our children. And honestly, no one wants to be fed with negativity. And we don't want, not just the climate fighters, but the people that we're fighting against, not fighting against, not really fighting, but, we're trying to make more awareness to all these people. But a lot of the times when we use negativity and opposition, you realize that they're just going to be fighting back, or they're just going to be withdrawing and say like, no, I'm done. Like, I don't need you to tell me what to do. And that often really results in a lose-lose situation. So, it's like you're shouting out loud, like, hey, save the planet. And then you see people like, nah, 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 I'm not going to listen to you because you're just telling me what to do all the time. And that can be very stressful for both you, for the other party as well. And just very anxiety provoking, and honestly just downright irritating for anybody, for the negative emotion and energy to be spreading around. And yeah, so what do we really want to avoid is, all these mental health problems that are coming up. So you might not see as a full-blown mental health issue, but a lot of the times we have spurts of all this anxiety, we have spurts of, feeling down and having some panic, thoughts of panic attacks. We sometimes go into denial and distraction. We may not necessarily go down the route of, alcohol or substance abuse, but, even distracting ourselves with like mindless drama binges or food binges or eating ice cream or Netflix and chill, sometimes all of that, if we're doing it mindlessly, it can be a form of denial or distraction from all these feelings that are coming up because of the mental anxiety and all of that. Oops, I'm sorry. So we could go back. Yeah. So, and also, another thing I think it's some people may think it's a positive thing, which is, constantly thinking about the climate change. How do I solve this? How can I do this? And it can be an obsession if you think about it. It can be very consuming because then all the time you're thinking, oh no, I can't use, plastic waste. I need to eliminate everything in my house. Or what can I do when I go to this? And then you're planning for weeks ahead, for all of this, how to reduce my plastic waste. I mean, it can be a positive thing, but it can also be very, very stress provoking. And it may not necessarily that balance may not necessarily be there, and you might find yourself being a lot more stressed than actually being productive and thinking about how climate change or how you are contributing to environment. And that itself can deter, your normal daily functioning or social interactions. Like, for example, if you're not going out with your friends just because you find that you're going to be generating waste from taking like the train or the car or something, or if you find that you're generating waste and you're rejecting work trips, you don't want to take the plane to fly overseas because you don't want to generate the carbon emissions, then all of that actually can deteriorate your daily normal functioning or your social interactions, and that has a lot of impact on your emotional and social well-being as well. Yeah, so what does a mindful response look like? So firstly, really understanding your possible stress factors. What exactly are contributing to your stress? So firstly, it will be lived experiences. So, like in Singapore, you have like all the floods and the increase in the heat and the haze and all of that. So lived experiences can really be stressful for us because we are actually feeling the effects of climate change. And that is something that motivates a lot of us to act on it, but also it can be very stressful. Yeah. So another thing would be doom scrolling or negative news coverage. So, and you are going to be seeing a whole lot of stuff online that is bombarding you with information on, what you should do, or all the things that's happening in the world, like all the haze and the the wildfires and all of that, and that can be quite stressful and negative, and you're not sure what to do about it. And then also there's all of this judgment by others and yourself, thinking what you should be as a person, what you shouldn't be as a person, and all of that, and afraid of making mistakes. Yeah, and then also the environmental side effects, just the polluted air, extreme heat, all of that can actually just cause a lot of depression and negative feelings, which is actually not even related to climate change. So understanding where all of that come from, and then also acknowledging your feelings about climate action. How does it make you feel as a person? Do you feel that you have to be this perfect person that is always doing the right thing for the environment, or do you feel very stressed about it and do you feel that you're not coping very well? Writing all those feelings down, or talking with your friends, or talking with family, giving yourself time to accept your vulnerabilities and your failures. So there's definitely going to be times where you make mistakes and you are not living up to your perfect ideal of being this climate fighter, and you have to give yourself time to understand that you're never going to be that perfect zero waster that is going to put everything in a jar and never going to overflow and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, if you can do that, like, sure, but don't make it a thing that you have to be stuck with. Don't attach yourself to that. So showing compassion, letting go of all that perfectionism, I would say, and letting go of the judgment, self-care. So when you find yourself very stressed, like what you guys mentioned just now, going for walks, sweating it out, talking to people and all of that, can actually be very beneficial for you to just release yourself and use your mental energy and your physical energy in something that you really enjoy. So taking action. So a lot of times we're very stressed because we're not doing anything about it. So if you're feeling very stressed, sometimes you just need to act and live more closely and more aligned with your personal values. But always start small. So you don't have to change the whole world. You don't have to change your whole family. You don't have to change everything in your own daily routine. Start maybe one or two things that you want to make it a routine. And then continue from there. And yeah, reach out to people and organizations if you need help, and seek help from professionals, both in the climate community and also the mental health community if you do need them. So we're running out a bit of time, so I'll just briefly run through what we are looking forward to in the future. So we are looking for a deeper appreciation for nature from the inside out. So really connecting with the motivation of why we're doing this and how we're doing it, putting those things together. And we are also focusing on the younger people. So really making it into a lifestyle, into a habit, instead of something that is like a problem that just comes up and we have to solve it. But making it into a lifestyle that this is something that we are working towards and it's a long-term journey. Yeah, so we want to also accelerate efforts from other stakeholders as well. So just, making sure that everyone is coming together to provide solutions together, working together, and not just all of us in our own spaces and doing our own things. Yeah, so for us, we're working through like social media advocacy, where we are trying to work through systemic change. That's what we want to do, because that's where the biggest impact or change will be. Definitely, hopefully, public sector to push this out more, and then also be social solution providers. So for us to work together from all angles to accelerate change. And so other stakeholders like LEPA and SG, Sustain, Bearpack, all of that, we all have different parts to play in this bigger climate community, and we want to be able to work together to fill each other's gaps. So we have an IG magazine of sorts, and we touch on a lot of topics about mindful activism, and such as cutting down consumption, eco-parenting, and all of that. So that's something that we've been doing to raise more awareness on putting mindfulness with your climate action, putting them all together, and how do you integrate them in your daily life. Yeah. And then this is a new project that we are embarking on, which is basically introducing a mindful experience or literacy to children, and building a very strong mindful and conscious generation from the young, for them to grow up thinking about being mindful, being conscious, and not thinking about using all of this to solve a problem, but it's just a day-to-day. This is something that they do all the time, and that becomes less of a I need to solve the problem, because less stress provoking, but more of like, yeah, sure, like I love the trees. This is what I'm gonna do. If this is something that cannot be changed now, it's something that I will keep working on throughout my entire lifetime. Yeah, so that's something we're working towards. So in the near future, working towards more topics around the environment, different connecting different parts of the environment and climate change together. So not just about trees or plants, but really coming from all angles. So having more exploring to different delivery approaches, and to the wider community as well. We also want to focus on serving underserved families or people who are not as exposed to the environmental or eco-awareness kind of thing, because a lot of them can be for very privileged people who have quite a lot of educational background. So we want to be able to give this platform for children who are not as exposed to all this information. And also to seek partner collaborations to enhance our impact. So again, working together with different communities and different companies to enhance and make this just a more holistic, a more all-rounded approach. Yeah. And so for moving forward, if you have any ideas on how to partner up or collaborate with different communities, feel free to email us. Or if you are part of an organization you like to work with us, it would be awesome if you could just drop us an email. We'd love to have a chat with you on how we can move forward in our collaboration. And also, if you're interested, we are recruiting a social media manager, a part-time one. So you can scan the QR code and check out our job description. And yeah, that's all from us. And let us know if any questions. I think we ran a bit over time, so I'm not sure if we are able to accept any questions. But if you do have any questions, you can drop us a DM as well on our Instagram, or send us an email on backtogroundzero.sg@gmail.com, and we'll love to respond to any of your questions. And we might even share your questions online so that everyone gets to know what how to better improve our environment, how to better cope with eco-anxiety and all of that. Yeah, thank you for tuning in to us. We love sharing with you, and hopefully you gain something from our talk as well.